All right, it's great to be here. My name is Vishwas Mudagal and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a storyteller, I'm a motivational speaker. And I think one thing that characterizes me with a lot of other people is my love for superheroes. I'm crazy about superheroes. I've always been crazy about superheroes. And today I'm going to talk about my thoughts and what I feel about how things are shaping up right now. So the thing that characterizes everybody is that in India, we've always been a nation of superheroes. If you look at what has happened for the last couple of millennia, few thousands of years, in fact tens of thousands of years back, we have been a nation of epics and Puranas and Mahabharata and Ramayana. Everything for us has been about superheroes. In fact, that is our culture, that is our history. And these superheroes have taught us everything that we want it to be. They inspire us, they guide us, they want us to do so much more than what we can normally achieve, like the normal human beings. For example, you have Arjuna, who is basically a very kick-ass superhero, very cool, and he's all about this bravery and archery and stuff. And then you got Rama, for example, with all the righteousness and stuff. Then you got Krishna with the cleverness, and then you got Hanuman with that valor and courage, and so many other superheroes that we've got. But then if you look at what really happened over a period of time in India, things kind of died down. We don't have those superheroes anymore. And then back in like 1990s, if you remember, we had those comic culture. It was kind of booming that time. It was not exactly booming, but it was still there. I remember Chacha Chaudhary and Sabu, Supandi, and a lot of other these characters that were there. And if you remember this thing that when Sabu gets angry, there is a Jwalamukhi that that gets bursted in Jupiter, for example. So we had such kind of an amazing culture, but then everything went down the drain. I'll tell you why. So this one thing I want to ask you, and of course, whoever asks any questions or answers any questions, we have a free book for you, courtesy at Tech, and I'll be personally signing it for you. So please free to interact. I just want this session to be as interactive as possible. So my question is basically, when you think about superheroes, what comes to your mind? Anybody wants to answer it? Yes? Superpower. Yeah. Anybody else? So inspiring, yeah. Undefeatable, yes. But in general, when you think about superheroes, like what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Who is producing the most amount of superheroes right now? Exactly. So that's exactly what is happening right now. So when you think about superheroes, it's all about Marvel and DC Comics, and these guys have kind of flooded the market across the world, and they've got like billions and billions of dollars riding on top of each one of the superheroes. And it's gotten this level that they have about 200 to 300 superheroes. There is a superhero for every damn thing. So much so that they have ran out of content, and now there is a superhero for like ants as well. There is an Ant-Man. And this like really ants, you want to get there. And even the Ant-Man goes on to become like a global success story. Right? For example, the Ant-Man was released in India, and then in the first day, they earned about 7 crores, for example. They went on to do some decent amount of revenues. And this movie, The Avengers, last year it was one of the top grossers in India, about more than 220 crores or something. And then if you look at what the top 5 nations are there for Marvel around the world, India is in the 5th spot. So that shows that Indians are crazy about consuming this superhero content, right? But sadly, we don't have our own superheroes. That is a state, because there is so much of influx of these superheroes with high quality, and they have got a lot of funding, and then because they have this, they created this huge market for themselves. So that's where they've taken over the superheroes of every nation on earth, practically. So much so that, Ant-Man is one example. I'll show you a couple of other bizarre examples right now. Let's take a look at this. This is a doll man. Doll man. What is the superpower? This guy can condense himself and then become small like a doll, and he can go anywhere and then he can fight the bad guys. Can you believe it? So this is the kind of content these people are like creating. So they have gone to that level. Next. We have Fat Man. Okay? Fat Man, the human flying saucer. Look at the amount of ridiculousness. When I read about this, it seems like a fat guy, whatever this man was, he goes and he hits a flying saucer, and then he becomes a shapeshifter and he can become a flying saucer. I don't even know how to react to that. Next one, we got the squirrel girl, right? Look at the kind of what level they've gone. They've kind of milked this superhero bandwagon so much that they're running out of content, but still they're not done enough with it, because clearly the world has not had enough of superheroes. Because every year you look at what are the top grosses in the world, it has to be a superhero movie. That's how it is, right? So when it comes to the whole Indian superheroes, it tells us one thing, that we have an audience here that is ripe for superheroes, but we need some content. We need a culture of comics, be it OTT, the web series, be it movies, be it in every form, graphic novels, whatever that is. We need this culture, because India cannot forget its original history, that it's a land of superheroes, and we need to bring it back. So we need to bring back the pride in our own nation, and then to do that, basically, I felt that kind of, this is one thing I want to do. I started hating it that this Hollywood guys are like kind of flooding our market so much, and I felt that I should do something about it myself, rather than waiting somebody to do something. I thought that we all need to figure out a way to bring back superheroes ourselves. But then how do you do that? It has to be super cool. At the same time, it has to be something that is connecting back to the roots. How do I go back? Yeah, that's something can go back to the roots. So when I started looking at what I need to do, I figured out that I need to write about a superhero that we all can correlate with, something that is futuristic, at the same time something that is gone back in the past with our Puranas and all of that stuff. And then narrowed down on this character called Kalki, because this is a very, very kick-ass character, which is like the last avatar of Lord Vishnu, who basically comes to end the Kali Yuga, that is the age of darkness. And he has to be this destroyer who basically destroys everything before he rebuilds everything. So I really kind of felt that this is a brilliant concept, and I wanted to write about him. I want to bring him as a really amazing superhero, so where we can actually correlate. So that's what I started doing. And you might be thinking, if it is about Kalki, then what is this Hanuman character doing here? So basically what I did was that I created this characters called Vanaroid. So what you look at here is not exactly Hanuman, but it is a machine in the form of Lord Hanuman. It's called, basically it's Vanar plus Android, it's a Vanaroid. So that is the concept that I have made. So I just want you guys to have a look at the trailer, I think, before we move on. Can we play the trailer, please? Thank you so much. So the book released in December, and it's already a bestseller across India. Right now, it's really selling very well. It's always on Amazon top 10. And people are liking the whole concept that I brought in science fiction and clubbed it with mythology and traced it back to Indian prehistoric times basically. And we have a lot of secret societies and all of that. So basically what I wrote about is my own Kali Yuga, where this terrorist organization has practically destroyed Indian parliament, and Indian cabinet is no more, and it is like there is no nation, there is no leadership in the nation right now, and it's basically national emergency. And during that time you have a situation of World War III, and all the nations are collapsing, dictatorship is on the rise, so it's like chaos everywhere and death and destruction. And between all of that, there has to be somebody who rises, and then that's this this person called Kalki, who's like a vigilante, basically. So and he also has this. He has created his own Vanar Sena, just like how Lord Ram had his Vanar Sena, and then Kalki has his Vanar Sena, but he makes it with technology, and that's what I call as the Vanaroids. That's my story there. But like I said, that I believe that this is like the onset of our own superheroes in India, and I believe that the era of Indian superheroes is just about to start, because I believe that now we've got enough OTT players, there is enough funding, there is big budget movies that are happening right now, and people are warming up to such kind of movies. There is a very right time for us. And Bahubali was a great example for us, and which grossed about more than 500 crores. That showed us that if there is a high quality product and there is a very much Indian tone to what we are trying to do, so there is a market for it, but it's just that I think we need a very, very high quality stuff. That's what is needed, and the market is already there. I think Indians consume, like I said, the Hollywood superhero movies so much, we know it. But I believe that what needs to happen is that we need to bring back the comic culture. I think that is very critical. And this also gives us an opportunity for the, for brands, a lot of the brands to have the connections with the, with the superhero characters. If you look at what's happening right now, mostly the advertising community I think is behind either cricketers or it is the movie stars at this point in time. Mainly these are the two kind of categories they go after. But I believe that there is a lot of opportunity in tying up with storytelling, very powerful storytelling in the superheroes. And I believe that in the future there is going to be a lot of opportunity to tie up this kind of sentimental and also creating the brand connects with certain superheroes. That's going to happen. I think one of the few things that we saw was Chota Bheem and Parle G, of course. It was done beautifully, and there could be many more. And with Bahubali, like I said, it got into the web series, and it's got into like animation series, and it was in Comic Con, a lot of those things. So that was a really, I think it will be an epic movie for sure. That will kind of pave way for those big budget movies. That's what I feel. And I would like to end it by telling that I really enjoyed coming here. A lot of really positive energy everywhere, and I just wanted this session to be a little bit more interactive. And because we have so many books to be offered, if anybody has any questions to win the books, please ask me questions, or whatever, we can just talk. Anybody has any questions? Yes.
Thank you. Hi, great session. But as you said about Marvel and DC, right? So I just have a question regarding that. Basically, Marvel also had this stint where they were bankrupt and had to sell their basically characters to Sony, for example, right? So of course, all of that did happen, and at this time they're really big, right? But at that time they were bankrupt, right? So having said that, they are like really big, and all of that is not correct. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if you look at most of the authors and most of the comic book writers, they all go bankrupt. Once in a while, they all go bankrupt. That's how it is. I think because the commercial models were still not evolved that time. Even now in India, really look at who is coming up with comic books right now. They're not selling really, right? And look at who are those authors right now who are actually full-time writing, like who are the full-time authors.
Exactly.
There are very few. In fact, I myself, I'm like an entrepreneur. I'm running 2 companies right now, and this is my parallel career, for example. So, but that needs to change. I think we need to have a revenue model in the country where you actually are promoting storytellers, and with the influx of the OTT players like Netflix especially is kind of paid way for all of these the web series right now. I think now the storytellers are getting their due diligence. Now I think it's just happening right now where the stories are ruling the roost. I think the stories are going to be more important than the actors. I think that is the time then when you know that these things are going to work. I think that's what happened ultimately in Marvel. The comic culture was so powerful that Batman, I think, and Superman, those 2 characters actually defined what we have right now as a superhero character, as the generation out there. So in India also, there are going to be a lot of movies that are going to go bad. Ravan, for example. You had Ravan, you had, but Krish was still a decently, I think it was a successful movie. So that shows that, okay, we have to continue to experiment and we need to get out of those Bollywood romance movies. I think people are fed up with them, and in the, you have the Saas Bahu things going on in the serials. I think we need to move past that right now. I'll sign that for you, we'll catch up, yeah. Yes.
I have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Abhishek. I'm Abhishek. I just wanted to ask that I'm an avid comic book reader. Like I still have around 300 comic books at home.
That's awesome.
Especially Raj Comics. You must be aware of all the superheroes that we have.
Yes, yeah.
But I know, I think till 2001, I used to read comic books, and I had all these collections: Nagra, Super Commando, Doga, Kobe, Bhedia, Inspector Steel, Tiranga, Parmanu. I have the entire series. And most of them, if I see today's Marvel characters, were based on or somehow similar to the superheroes of Raj Comics.
Yes.
But then it waned down all of a sudden, and there was no, I just want to understand the reason why it was not taken up on the digital platforms as such, or maybe whatever, the transition didn't happen properly from print to other platforms. Where was the miss? Why do you think, it didn't do that well, even though the storyline and the plots of those comics was brilliant? If I see whatever, I also used to read DC and Marvel comics at that point of time.
Yeah.
But the Raj comics and the typical characters like we have, like
Yeah.
Nagra, Super Commander, the plots was much more better than what Marvel shows.
That's
so
right.
what do you think was a miss, and why didn't our superheroes got the credit or the kind of appreciation that they deserved?
Yeah, so I feel that before the internet actually came in, right, that culture had died on already. Actually, before even the internet started. So that was a big problem. And if you really look at the American and Japanese culture, right, even Japan has an amazing culture of manga art and all of that. So those guys are really, really deep into this whole cartoon and stuff. And for them, it is like a religion for them, right? For them, they kind of feel this animation is their thing. And the Americans as well, I think they have this a critical mass. A critical mass, I think, was missing, which we never hit the critical mass of comic books. Like, for example, like a Fat Man had to come. Imagine at what level you have to go to get there, basically, right? So a Squirrel Girl, or if you're looking at all of those things, that means that so many iterations have gone to get there where they have hit the saturation point. I believe that critical mass we've never hit, and then it was very unfortunate. And to be honest, I really don't know the answer myself, but it's my strong guess that somewhere we missed that critical mass, and it couldn't jump into the next level, where I think that the medium was missing that time, and the culture died down. And the culture died down, and then there was influx of Hollywood movies, and the Hollywood superheroes took away the entire thing, and then we never came back after that. It's basically we were like dead. It's like we are not there anymore right now. I mean, we have to build this industry from the scratch. It's embarrassing for me. It's embarrassing because a country like India, where we have written about hundreds of superheroes, each of our mythological characters are superheroes, and each one of them have got values, They have taught us what is good and what is evil and what is the battle between them. They have taught us how we need to lead our lives. They have practically shaped Indian history. And it's so sad that we don't have any platform right now. And then we are watching this Hollywood, a series like crazy. I mean, we are like the top 5 there, and soon we'll be like in top 2 or 3, I don't know what, right? So it's really embarrassing. And I'm a very practical man, and I know that just because of we feel that okay, oh, we are Indian, we will suddenly go and watch Indian movies. No, Indian authors, Indian movies, Indian series have to compete with the best in Hollywood. We need to beat them in terms of the storytelling. We need to beat them in terms of quality, the the special effects, and for that to happen, we need to get budgets. We need to get a culture of very powerful scripts and the comic culture. Lot of we have like 1 or 2 decades to catch up. So, but it needs to happen, and I believe that instead of waiting for somebody else to do it, I thought I should do it. Thank you.
Hello. I have a more brand-related question because our topic was superheroes and brands. So, the examples that you showed of Chota Bheem or the example that you quoted of, let's say, Bahubali, they're essentially franchisees converted into an endorsement. Chota Bheem is endorsing Parle G because kids love Chota Bheem and therefore they would buy Parle G. Now, do you see any possibility of creation of a superhero for a brand which imbibes that brand's ethos values? So we have something like a Michelin Man, which was a representative of it. But do you see in today's context a brand being represented by a superhero?
I believe that definitely it will be a very interesting take if somebody does that. But I would like anybody to answer it. I think there are so many people from advertisement industry. So what do you guys think? Anybody wants to answer that question? Should we create a superhero for a brand right now? If we create it,
hello,
how it should be?
Yeah, so yes, if a brand has a requirement and it's large enough. Hi.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So if a brand has a requirement and a vision saying that there are properties which are best personified by a superhero, where you give physical shape and form to those properties and the brand stands for something. And then the superhero can get into stories and things that a brand cannot get into. Definitely, that's up to, let's say, the board of any company biting the bullet and saying that, yes, we are forward thinking and we want to, kind of create something, a character that personifies what we stand for. A normal brand will not be able to do that. So if you created a character for a biscuit and a biscuit said that I'm all about nutrition, being a healthy kid, being a good kid, the biscuit can't do that. But a kid which stands for that biscuit can actually be in all those situations and dramatize all that for the brand.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think there is an opportunity for brands to really create these original characters and drive on top of it. But I think it needs to be done in a really well-rounded way. We need to think it through, because otherwise it can just fail. So we need to be very clear of what we want to do, I think.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I read a very interesting paper sometime back which said culture eats strategy for breakfast. Okay?
Culture beats strategy.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast, okay?
Yeah.
But there is a very interesting trend which is sort of going on for last decade or so, where strategy is being eaten as a snack by all these ROI-driven, tactical, day-to-day kind of, marketeers. And so, I think as marketeers and as brand people, we are drifting away majorly. So while on the literary side, you are doing phenomenal work in creating characters and sort of, boosting what is ingrained in our culture. But on the business and marketing side, I think there is a rise of cowardice, as I would say. So you have extremely fearful CEOs and extremely fearful CMOs today who do not have time to invest in storytelling, and they want the result to happen today.
Right.
And so just want to hear from you as an author, how do you see, do you see these two worlds sort of coming together, or these are going to run as parallel tracks?
Yeah. So I also feel that, like even 10 years back, we had a lot of ads. It was very endearing to see a lot of those ads actually. So that storytelling was there, which kind of is dying down. We don't see those storytelling anymore. It's become very less right now. Even that jalebi ad was there, for example. It was such an endearing ad and something that we always remember. And so many of those old ads, those guys, ads have been left like an indelible mark in our minds. So those ads are not coming anymore. I don't know which was the last ad where you guys felt that it was an epic ad, like iconic ad. Any ads you guys remember? Like the most recent one.
I think last 10 years, advertising has lost its
Gone, right? That is a problem. It's gone. So that's what it is. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head by saying that, okay, people don't have time. I think people just want just quick results right now, and they just want to just shoot whatever it is and get done with it, and they're so to the point. And I think the storytelling is totally missing in advertising right now. It's totally gone. So I think it's a sad situation there again, and I believe that audience really want stories. I don't know why there is no connect. This is always there. Because if you look at the viral content that is happening right now, they're all story based if you really look at it. So that is what is going viral right now. All the ridiculous stuff will be going viral. That is because they want to kind of dramatize it, and then they want to like push things in that way. So I believe that storytelling has to make a comeback in the advertising. I think you guys should go back, and I think you need to tell your CMOs and all of that. You guys know this, there's decision makers. I believe that it needs to have a comeback.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that we did not really reach that critical mass, and the culture just wholly died of comic books. So do you think the culture died because readers moved on to something else, or just that our storytelling wasn't there, or we weren't telling those stories that would have connected with our readers? So like, and if it was the prior that people just moved on to something else, then what is going to change now with respect to us focusing more on?
Yeah. So what happens is, like, if you really look at the comic book culture as such, right? So there is an introduction to comic books with certain characters, right? There is something like a Peppa Pig, or you got some characters that is there when you're very young. You look at that, and then you graduate to something like a Spider-Man, Batman kind of a thing, and then you graduate and you're looking at more of young adult kind of comics and stuff like that. So what I believe one of the key things that we missed in India was, I think comics were there just for one segment, I think, and there was not like a progression basically that could keep graduating. And these comic books, ultimately they graduated in the series. There was a cartoon thing going on there was movies, all of that was happening. So I believe that was the critical piece that was missing, and that is something that is still missing at this point in time. If you really look at all the kids that they are reading right now, everything is imported comics at this point in time. Everything is imported. We don't have any Indian comics whatsoever right now, this point in time. That is a sad story. I think we need to fix that right now. Yeah, please, I think, yeah.
Eventually what happened,
Can you give a mic, please?
growing up years,
Yeah.
it was more like, everybody was fascinated by the West. And that is how they were more eventually putting money. I remember my mother used to work for a library, right? She's a librarian. So I had dearth of so many amazing comics. You name it, Tintin. And I used to be so fascinated by the very comic book Tintin. I still like that Tintin character. Again, that's how it, the way it was advertised eventually.
Yeah.
And what we are talking about, there was Chacha Chaudhary and Sabu stuff.
Yeah.
At Amar Chitra Kathaएं and Panchtantra. And
Panchatantra, yeah.
we lost it because, there was no money eventually in that. Now, in today's time, there's so much of money and there's so much of story. And I'll just, it might sound a little different. We people do not value our own entire culture setup and the upbringing. And that is the reason, personally, everybody is failing on these grounds. Why? Because when we have the, guts to use a word, English word, myth, mythology,
Right.
Ask God stories, falsify, and these are notions, these are synonyms.
Right.
So when we are not valuing our own thing, trust me, no brand would stick for a very long time eventually. Maybe this is my personal take.
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe that, you know, we need to have a culture that is backed by storytelling. That is something that is missing, and we need to bring that back. That is very, very valuable.
The brand you are using, Kalki, is going to be avatar, coming avatar of Lord Vishnu.
Correct.
I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
I don't think not many people would be aware of it.
Yeah, not many people are. Are you guys aware of who is Kalki till now?
Yeah.
All of them? All of you?
Most of them.
Most of you. Okay, yeah.
So my question is like this, a very glorious past. We are having such a glorious past.
Absolutely.
So is it creating a hindrance to create a new superhero? Because you have shown the squirrel also, we are having, you can say, the Ganesha also. For the elephant also, we are having the superhero. We are having for the mouse also. We are having for each and everything. For the lion also, for the each and everything we are having it. So our benchmarks are so high.
Yeah.
So do you think that because of this is also one of the reasons that we are not in position to create a superheroes?
No, I don't think so. That is the reason. I believe that those things should act like inspirations for us to write more stories. Because if these people can write such amazingly rich stories, like some 5,000 years back, 5,000 years back, all these stories were written. Imagine. I mean, that time nobody was there in the West. There was nobody there. They didn't know how to even write. But we had figured out everything, technology-wise also, and we had so much advancement in literature as well at that point in time. So it makes me believe that, you know, the kind of advancement our prehistoric forefathers and the generation that time had, we're yet to achieve that right now. We're not there yet because we were the leaders in the world at that point in time. But I think because of a lot of unforeseen and a lot of situations, I think we are in this situation at this point in time. Many invasions, you know, what all happened. Somebody took the soul out of India and made us feel inferior about ourselves. Then we started feeling, okay, our culture is not that good. And then what those guys are doing, they're wearing pants, so we need to wear pants. So if everybody's wearing pants right now. So like that, everything became about West because they've systematically broke our confidence, and that is a problem. So we need to rebuild it, and we can, and we will. Yeah.
I would like.
Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to know your views on books like Mehlua and Ram, which Amish Tripathi has written. That how are they different from this, and how do you really think that they brought Indian mythology and Scientology and all these things together?
Yeah. So those are also brilliant effort, I think, to look at it. But those are more from the mythological point of view. People have written, and they have written again in the past again, right? So people have written about the past, and it's about basically you're going back and you're figuring out how mythology is written and you're rewriting it and stuff. But the take that I have done is I've written in the future. So in the future, like I've written about Kalki as a normal human, and he has to become this savior, this vigilante, and how he goes through all the hardships and stuff.
So, but Kalki is a future character. Like,
Yeah.
But
also-
Mehlua was on Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
Like Ram is on. So these are all past characters. Kalki
Yeah.
is anyways a future character.
Yeah. No, Kalki, the Kalki Purana is already written, and they've also written about what he does, how he does it. Everything is written already. So it's as good as past. The way they've written is as good as past. But the way I have written is I've just taken inspiration from it, but it's a completely new take on it.
Okay. Last question. I'm a part of two book clubs, but although we are in a digital age, but still people who love to read books, we still like the paperback and the hard copy rather than
Yeah.
the Kindles and all of that thing. So do you really think that this trend, what you would have seen in Amazon, that people have downloaded more of Kindle version, or because you have both, I saw. So
Yeah.
how has been the trend that you have seen, that people have downloaded more of Kindle version, or they have actually bought the hard copy?
India is, the total market is paperback. People always want to buy the hard copies here, and I think hardly like 5% of the sale is in ebook, not even 5%. So yeah, it's not there at this point in time. So, but I think it will slowly pick up. Yeah, it'll get there, But people like to have books here. They like to feel it and all of that, and put a bookmark and read whatever they want. I think that's still there. It's going to take some time for us to catch up. Yeah. Yes.
Just wanted to check your mind on the superhero that you are asking, let's say, content creators to create, or what you are creating. Is it all good, or is there a shade of gray in the superhero? I mean, we have had traditionally mythology people who are always good, like a Ram who's completely ideal and all that. So is there a shade of gray that you are saying that the future superheroes should be, or are they supposed to be good?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question and a brilliant thought as well. I believe that we have got many shades of gray, inside of us. Any human has got good and bad inside each one of us, and it's a part of us. That is the true nature of how human mind works. And I believe that as we continue to write, there will be characters that will be anti-heroes as well. And you will be surprised in the past as well. So if you look at Ramayana was, for example, Mahabharata, in that you have the Pandavas as the heroes, and then you got Kauravas as the villains. But there is one, I don't know who it was, who wrote that. He made in that take, it basically Duryodhana was the hero in that epic. So he rewrote that entire Mahabharata from the point of view of Duryodhana. Is it? I don't know, but that was written long back, not only now actually. Yeah, because it was a prehistoric time. Even that time only somebody wrote. So it's good and bad are basically a point of view. So if you look at every character, if you look at even Game of Thrones, for example, it has been shown from the point of view of 5 characters, for example. So that's how it is. So if you look from the villain's point of view, then that person will become the hero, and that's how it is going to be. So I believe that in the future there are going to be superheroes that are going to be anti-heroes, and there are going to be shades of gray. There are going to be different motives on these protagonists, why they will do certain things, what they believe in. But it's going to happen, and that will be interesting as well. That's when we will mature as a superhero culture, basically.
Hi, yo. I mean, like, my mind got stuck when you said, like, we are behind 2 decades in all this category. My question is that, like, 1 or 2 reasons, can you tell me, like, why we are behind in the category? Is it like a good writer like you is not made in a country, or our mindset is more towards the global heroes? Or the third thing is, like, the category of producer is not ready to take this, to push this. I mean, like,
So
what would be
yeah, so I think...
Or like the fourth thing is, like, we were lacking in the technology like the global guys?
I think it's got a lot to do with the Bollywood culture in India. It's heavily influenced everything that we do, because in Bollywood, I think from the time they started doing movies, they kept only one theme that had to be, everything has to be revolved around romance. Like, you need to have a heroine, you need to have a hero, and there needs to be like a love story, and then there needs to be a villain, then there needs to be like a complication. So this became like the formula for anything you do. No matter what happens, no matter what the movie is about, you need to have these equations. You need to have songs, you need to have all of that. So look at how many, like, thousands of movies are made over the decades. All of them have the same thing. So this became like a set formula, and some of those movies became blockbusters, and then people started doing more or less same thing for the last 50 years. That's what we have been doing. So when this started happening, that also came in literature. The same thing. Now, if you look at the highest selling are romance. People are writing about, I have a love story, I too have a love story, or you name a love story, it's already there. So people are picking up only these things, right? So that's the flavor of how the nation has kind of got into that. But then again, mythology has come up, fortunately, and things are changing now because Hollywood has brought in that the new flavor there, and that's one of the reasons I think Hollywood came and plugged the gap. Whenever somebody wanted to see something new, something different, other than Bollywood, they switched to Hollywood, so for realistic kind of movies. But I think now things are changing, and I believe that with that, writers will start writing stories that are realistic, and then movies also start becoming realistic. Like I watched Uri the other day, the surgical strike. I think it was a very well written script, although it was based on true stories, but the way they wrote the script, it was rightly written. So I believe such kind of stories need to come up, and that will solve the problem. Yeah.
Hi.
All right, one last question.
Okay, hi. So I have a bit of a follow-up question on this discussion about westernization or like Hollywood superheroes taking over the space. Do you think it's because they're cooler than Indian superheroes that were written till now?
They're cooler.
Yeah, maybe because Iron Man's gadgets or like, you
Yeah.
know, just Deadpool's humor, something like that. Do you think?
See, what happens is this, that they understand the new generation, the generation X, generation Y, they understand them, and they are constantly tailoring the superheroes to get there, to be there for somebody, right? So now we are stuck with all the characters, like we have Mahabharata and all that, so people are not able to connect with them because it's mythology, and you know, some people have tagged it as a religious text and all of that. So, you know, that doesn't become like very sexy in your mind to go back and, you know, get glued to it. So what we need to do is we need to come with newer characters that you are able to understand. We need characters that are high tech. We need characters that are complex in nature. We need super villains. We need villains that are very different, because villains drive the books, not the heroes do, but villains also need to be that strong, right? So we need a new avatar of everything that we had in the past. So we need fresh thinking, fresh blood. We need crazy ideas, like how these people in Hollywood, they went crazy over it and they failed. So we need to get to a point where in India also somebody is doing Doll Man and all that. Somebody has to come and do some nonsense like that, fail a couple of times. We need to get to that saturation point. That needs to happen, then only we will get back the culture.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. It was amazing talking to you. A fantastic audience. I think I love this engaging session. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.